Thank you, Madam President. It has been so wonderful to be in Tennessee over the past couple of weeks and to have the opportunity to listen to Tennesseans. And we have listened and talked with local elected officials and teachers and parents from one corner of the state to another. And they are very aware and are truly focused on the challenges that we are going to be facing this fall in just a few weeks. And Madam President, for some of our school systems in Tennessee, they're going to be going back to school the first week of August. And they have a lot of questions as to whether they're going to end up with classes meeting in person or online. Up until now, students have relied on virtual schooling platforms to stay connected to their teachers, and it's likely that in many communities, this system will continue at least through the fall semester. Relying on Google and other educational software providers keeps teachers and families safe from COVID-19, but these programs come with their own brand of hazards. Our increased reliance on big tech has highlighted just how vulnerable we are when things go awry. Even the platforms that have become commonplace over the years pose risk, and not only just risk to children. You need look no further than last week's Twitter meltdown for evidence of how quickly a hacker or even an insider can turn a few tweets into a threat. So I will tell you this, in Tennessee, I say we have a lot of security moms. And those security moms you hear so much about are really back in full force. They are concerned and they are paying close attention, and they are not going to back off of the Googles and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and they want to see these companies held accountable and to be transparent about how they follow, how they use data. Because when they see their children spending hours staring at TikTok or YouTube, they're beginning to see and fear a vulnerability. When they see their children using their classroom software, they begin to see and fear a vulnerability. They haven't forgotten that back in 2015, the Electronic Frontier Foundation filed a complaint with the FTC against Google, alleging that their Google for Education platform was exploiting students' personal information and potentially exposing it to third parties. A 2017 report confirmed and expanded on these concerns. These programs have continued, but big tech has left parents with more questions than answers about what is happening with their children's data. How are they pulling this information in? How are they tracking these children? What are they doing with the Chromebook in schools programs? Who has this information on their children, and what are they doing with it? What kind of files are they building about our children? You know, Madam President, I have said one of the questions we should ask and work until we can find an answer is, who owns the virtual you? Who owns it? Because the virtual you is you and your information online. It is you and your presence online. This is what parents fear. And I will tell you, that fear is complicated because of the rise in mandatory use of technology by students. And it has prompted me, along with several of our colleagues here, to ask the FTC to launch a major investigation into how these platforms protect student privacy. That's the question, Madam President, they have to answer. Are you protecting it? If not, why not? If not, are you selling it to the highest bidder? Are you profiting by this educational information? But these security moms know it's not just their kids' safety and privacy at risk. They do their banking online, their shopping online, and may have had to deal with the nightmare of having their identity stolen during one of the many infamous retail hacks. They also know that these risks aren't just a domestic problem. They've seen bombshell reports about consumer data flowing freely between popular apps and servers in China. Of course, China. They've heard about how Chinese companies, all beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. And again, Madam President, as I say so often to American businesses, if you are in business with a company in China, you are in business with the Chinese Communist Party. They know that these companies, all beholden to the Chinese Communist Party, steal intellectual property, build vulnerabilities into their hardware, and tempt tech junkies with flashy mobile apps. The entanglement doesn't end there. I've spoken on multiple occasions about the clear danger posed by our stifling and overly permissive relationship with China. We have a duty to address the threats we've uncovered so far and anticipate future problems before they reach our shores. This year's National Defense Authorization legislation does this by targeting problems in both the public and private sectors. We know and have known for some time that the agenda of the Chinese Communist Party poses an existential threat to the West. This year's NDAA includes funding and other resources for the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, which is a comprehensive strategy focused on confronting Beijing's influence on other countries and maintaining a U.S. and allied presence in the region. We also authorized a pilot program that will allow cyber specialists from the National Guard to participate in information sharing and analysis between federal, state, and local officials. Now, we can use our military and our allies to control a threat that lives half a world away. But how do we stop that threat from reaching our shores? Back in March, I worked with Senator Menendez to introduce the bipartisan SAMC Act to secure our pharmaceutical supply chain and protect American consumers from shady Chinese manufacturers. In this year's NDAA, I expanded on that idea and fought for language that will require a percentage of what we call critical technologies to be assembled in the United States or by a close ally. We're also going to invest even more in machine and advanced manufacturing research at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Scientists at Oak Ridge will work directly with researchers at the University of Tennessee to develop new technology that will make American companies more competitive. I will tell you, the University of Tennessee Oak Ridge Institute That is a wonderful partnership. And Madam President, as we work toward 21st century capabilities for warfare, this is exactly the type partnership that we need to see more of. It's the type innovation that we need to see more of. Now, being from Tennessee, which is home to multiple military installations, I know that national defense starts and ends at home. So I secured increased funding that is desperately needed to repair and update Army deployment infrastructure. I know that my friends at Fort Campbell will be able to put that to good use on their runway ramps. The defense bill will also fully fund new mission essential aircraft, including 47 Chinook helicopters for our post in Tennessee and technologies that will allow those famous Reapers to one day be stationed in the volunteer state. We're also finally going to secure some properly fitting body armor for service women, which unbelievably is still unheard of in 2020. We'll likely spend the rest of this week hashing out the finer details of the NDAA before we bring up the final bill for a vote. And I encourage my colleagues to consider just how interconnected we are with both our allies and our adversaries. I want them to think about great power competition and the threats that exist: China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, as I call those four, the new axis of evil. And I would encourage them to remember that the threats we face require action at every single level, whether they surface at home or half a world away. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.